Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Justin Hurt. Somebody else enjoying the outdoors today?
Yeah, I'm doing a bit of traveling, so I had to pull off to do this real quick. But happy to be here.
Fantastic. I love it.
Let me get.
I should tell the people who I had two people who had something come up today, and I'm like, just telling me like, you could do it on the road. All right, I will leave you the stage, sir.
Okay. Hello everyone. I'm Justin Hurt. I've been a developer for about 10 years, and I'm currently working as a cybersecurity consultant on the red team at Herjavec Group. I wanted to talk today about a good opportunity for developers to kind of branch out into security and a low barrier of entry way to do that, and that's through bug bounties. So this is breaking the building, bug bounty hunting for developers. I'm sure many of you watching today either know how to build applications or learning to build them, but I always like to ask developers, if you know how to build an application, do you know how to break it? And better yet, do you know how other people are going to try and break it? Security has been a big concern on the internet for years now, but as breaches such as the ones Nintendo, Twitter, and Zoom have experienced this year alone, it clearly is not a problem that we've solved for. Every day, millions of lines of code are written and deployed out into the world, and whether due to inexperience, demanding project deadlines, or the wild promises of our marketing teams, the code we deploy isn't always the best code we could write. This more often than not results in bugs being introduced into our applications. Much of the time, these bugs can simply be cosmetic issues such as weird animation glitches. Sorry, I forgot to move the slides forward there. Or functional inconvenience like a form that won't submit. But in some worst case scenarios, the bugs we introduce into our code can become security risks that affect hundreds and even millions of people. The impact security vulnerabilities have on businesses and their clients can be crippling. It's because of these risks that security skills are in high demand, and sadly, we are always struggling to find talent that can meet those demands. It's because of this that branching into security as a developer can provide a significant boost to your career. So often I'm asked how a developer can begin adding security skills to their resume without remortgaging their house to pay for expensive certifications, or going to school, or using up all their free time to go to school for cybersecurity. So today I wanted to talk about one of the paths to supplementing your development skills with security that has the lowest barrier to entry. Bug bounty hunting is a fantastic way to branch into application security while also earning some extra income on the side. A bug bounty program is a way for companies to offer rewards and incentives to users to find and report security flaws in their applications. Companies can either self-host a bug bounty program, such as with Facebook and Google, or host one through a bug bounty platform. Today, we're going to talk about the platforms, going through the platform approach. So there are a number of platforms that offer to manage bug bounty programs for companies. The two most popular ones are HackerOne and BugCrowd, both of which are free to sign up for and offer great resources for practicing and training your hacking skills. Your success in bug bounty hunting, while supplemented with your knowledge of how applications work from your history of developing them, still largely depends on your experience with hacking them. So while you're still working on your hacker brain, it's best to stack the deck in your favor as much as possible. So when deciding on the first program that you want to participate in, and what applications you're going to start out hacking on, it's a great idea to choose an application that you already use regularly. This will help save you time learning the application to better understand how it works and subsequently how to potentially break it. Alternatively, you can look for new or less popular programs on the platform, as these will have less competition from other bug hunters, and you'll have more opportunity to find the low-hanging fruit vulnerabilities, while you learn to recognize the more obscure and difficult flaws. Lastly, if you want a good opportunity to practice and see realistic security flaws in the wild, unpaid bug bounty programs are a good opportunity for this. The downside is there is no monetary compensation for finding these vulnerabilities, but because these unpaid programs are often ignored by more experienced bug hunters, it leaves an opportunity for new bug hunters to find vulnerabilities and build their reputation on the platform. Successful bug hunters often choose to specialize in a niche classification of bugs, rather than attempt to cast a wide net amongst numerous bug classes. This is a recommended approach if your goal is primarily to make some side income with bug hunting. But as developers, it is often a greater benefit to have a broad understanding of all vulnerabilities an attacker may attempt to exploit, rather than a deep knowledge of one particular class. The industry standard classification of the top vulnerabilities faced by modern web applications is the Open Web Application Security Project, abbreviated OWASP. Their top 10 web vulnerabilities. The OWASP top 10 list represents a broad consensus about the largest security risks to web applications based on data aggregated from sources across the industry. This could be from security vendors and consultancies, bug bounties, and company and organizational contributions. While familiarity with the entire top 10 list is highly recommended, some of the vulnerability classifications that are easiest to start looking for include cross-site scripting, insecure direct object references, cross-site request forgeries, race conditions, and information disclosure. These classifications are still commonly found in applications. Two classifications I have found the easiest for new bug hunters to start with are cross-site scripting flaws and insecure direct object references. Cross-site scripting vulnerabilities are the result of insufficient input sanitization, which allows an attacker to inject client-side scripts into an application that are viewed by others, which can result in malicious actions being taken on behalf of a victim's account, or even full account takeover if an attacker can leverage the XSS flaw to obtain a victim's session information. An insecure direct object reference is an access control vulnerability that appears when input from the user is used to access objects directly and results in the application exposing data that a user is not authorized to view, such as being able to view another user's banking information. The hacker and bug bounty community is known for their laziness, and this is in a good way. If something is repeatable, that means it can be automated. And most of the time, once we automate something, we open source it. While you can certainly get lost in the rabbit hole of tools available to your everyday hacker, the one tool almost every hacker will advise you to master first is Burp Suite. Burp Suite is first and foremost a proxy for HTTP traffic. Placing Burp as a proxy between your browser and the internet allows you to view and intercept HTTP traffic as it travels from the browser to the server. Once Burp has intercepted the traffic from the browser, you can then use the tools Burp provides to edit and repeat requests, decode data, and more. Burp is such an ingrained tool in the hacking and bug hunting process that many successful bug hunters operate only using web browser and Burp Suite. Burp has both commercial and free community editions. Some features are locked behind the commercial version, however, none of the locked features are must-haves for bug hunting. Many hackers operate only using the community edition. While bug hunting is a great entry point for branching into security, it doesn't have to be the last stop. There are many opportunities as a developer to further build on security skills to make your resume even more appealing. There are multiple directions to go in security, but two paths that pair well with development skills are defensive, which is also known as blue security, and offensive, which is known as red security. A developer focused on defensive security will want to specialize in detecting and preventing input validation flaws, cross-site scripting, injection flaws, as well as an in-depth understanding of authentication, access control, and session management, and the weakness related to these. They'll also want to know how to best defend against those weaknesses. For anyone interested in specializing in secure development, I would recommend investing in the GIAC Certified Web Application Defender certification. Alternatively, those interested in a more offensive approach to security would focus on identifying and exploiting input validation flaws, cross-site scripting, and injection flaws, as well as techniques used to bypass authentication and access control mechanisms. For those interested in specializing in offensive application security, I recommend the GIAC Certified Web Application Penetration Tester certification. The bug bounty community is very open and accepting, and a lot of information is available freely through many sources. While no one can give you step-by-step instructions for finding bugs, there is a lot of guidance that will point you in the right direction. YouTube is a great resource for video content on bug bounty hunting. Some of the channels that I recommend checking out are Stoke, Nahamsec, Insider PhD, and She Hacks Purple. They all offer great information on bug hunting and vulnerabilities. And many bug hunters have also found success doing live hacking and practice live hacking practice, and discussions on Twitch. These streams are a great opportunity to learn alongside other bug bounty hunters, as well as a chance to discuss and ask questions of other successful hunters. Some streamers to check out are Nahamsek, the Mayor 11, and Ash Fox. And in closing, if you're a developer looking for an additional challenge or for a new way to differentiate yourself from the crowd, branching into security is certainly a valuable option in today's job market. And there are numerous options and paths you can take as a developer that will augment your skills as a developer and make you even more appealing prospect. Thank you all for your time. And I'm available here for any questions, or you can reach out to me on Twitter at Hertzek.
Awesome. Let's see if there's any question. Oh, we do have a couple questions. So we have tools and patterns for testing, unit, functional integration, acceptance. But how do we start adding tests that validate and support security?
Let me just turn off my screen sharing real quick. That's a great question. A little bit more than I could provide a lot of information for here, but something to look into is a movement called DevSecOps, which actually applies the security testing into your development lifecycle and your deployment lifecycle. So that's something definitely to look into.
Cool. Shatoya says, yeah, the demand for cybersecurity is not going anywhere anytime soon, and she loves the bounty hunting theme of the program too. Another question, have you seen increased interest in automated fuzzing during the development process? Google released some new tools for automation and scaling of fuzzing that seems like it might be a good tool to add to the development process.
Yeah, I definitely recommend at the very least an automated scanner for security in your development process. Most of the time you're going to need to eventually do a full penetration test to pass any kind of regulations or anything like that you may have with your application. And a automated fuzzer won't serve that full purpose, but it will identify a lot of the low-hanging fruit that you'll find in that penetration test and make you look better whenever you get a very small report back rather than a large report of security flaws in your application.
Yeah, the payment card industry stuff, the PCI compliance and all of that kind of stuff. We used to run some websites that would get just nonstop scanned by those scanners because we had some checking for PCI compliance on our website years ago before I started letting other people handle the PCI stuff because it was not a lot of company that specializes in that store the credit card data.
Right. So, yeah, it's very regulated.
Yeah. Eric says, what do you think are the most common mistakes when it comes to cybersecurity?
The most common mistake that we see is trusting input from untrusted sources. A user on your application is an untrusted source. You never know who's on the other side of that. So anytime you accept input from a user, it needs to be sanitized. It needs to be validated for what you're expecting. Most of the times whenever I find flaws, it's because I'm able to inject some JavaScript into an input that gets run in the application.
Yeah, I think that goes for like admin users and the back end, for not just the, public facing side of your app too. Because if, single admin gets his credentials thwarted.
Yeah, a common thing is like, especially with like URL parameters, if I can inject a script into that and send it to your support team or someone on there and get them to click it, I can obtain their session information and then log it into them. And then once I'm in as an admin,
it's busted from there.
I can do whatever I want.
Tell you what, I've got some stories to tell from the early mid 2000s with MySpace back in the day. The security on MySpace was awful.
Yeah, letting people run their own HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code, not a good idea.
It's bad news. Yeah, and even worse than that, they used their own in-house encryption for your session, and it was not ROT13, but it wasn't any better than that.
Right.
So I could decrypt my session, change my user ID, and refresh the page, and be logged in as anybody I wanted to on MySpace.
Yeah, that was broken. Yeah, there was a popular story of a friend request worm or something, which basically one person created it, and then anyone who visited his profile, it would add them as a friend, and then run the same script through their profile and over. Ended up with like millions of friends.
I had a app that I ran. This is back in my LAMP stack days. It's a PHP and MySQL app that basically used a cross-site, scripting attack, but it was one that the users would embed in their own profile, and it would track the identities of every person who visited your MySpace profile, which was super handy. It was like having that paid LinkedIn, but on MySpace. So you could see all the creepers who were sneaking around looking at your MySpace profile. It was weird times. But I can't believe they actually let us put not just HTML and CSS in our profiles, but JavaScript. They tried to block document.cookie, but it was so easy to work around it.
Yeah. So. No, that's the crazy thing. That's why we see, things progressing, because in the early days of the internet, we trusted everybody. That's why HTTP had no security to it. That's why HTTPS now, and even SSLV 1 and 2 are deprecated now. So, you have to make sure that you're using the right versions of everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, if that's it for questions, looks like it might be. Thank you, sir. I'll let you get back to the road.
All right. Thank you very much. And everybody have a great day.
You too. Let's see.